Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a good day today. As per usual, I'm having a wonderful day out today as well. And today I figured I would talk about, again, the country of Sweden. Just not about the language really, but more about the historical facts, 5 fascinating historical facts, or just facts in general about Sweden that maybe some of you might not have known before, or some of you might have known. I chose 5 particular facts that are not really that widely discussed or not that widely known to a lot of people. And I figured after talking about 5 fascinating facts about the Swedish language, I figured that kind of gained a lot of attraction and a lot of people had their thoughts and their comments, and I've read most of them. Some of them are very interesting, some of them are actually true, and I stand corrected on a few things. And I figured I would kind of continue this route and see what this video brings. And again, I figured since you guys kind of like more about Sweden and more about the language and just about Sweden in general, I figured why not, I'll just continue doing this series for a little bit longer. And of course I will continue doing my philosophy videos as well, but I figured right now it's a good time to kind of stay on track with the Swedish stuff, so to speak. So I listed 5 different interesting facts that I'm just gonna read one per fact, and then I'll talk about it a little bit more later on. So the first one is you may know the Swedish word lagom, which is basically just the right amount. But there's also another word called husmanskost, which means household comfort food. So I would say, to interpret this word, because I didn't dig deeper than that, the husmanskost, which means household comfort food, I would assume that basically means foods that are normally eaten at home in Swedish households, foods that are, cooked daily maybe, or cooked on a weekly basis, traditional foods maybe. And this is also something typical for German language, actually, speaking of that, because there are a lot of words that would describe one thing. So you would kind of mash a lot of words into one big word and you would describe that particular thing or that particular event. And there's also, I think if I remember correctly, there's a Danish called hygge, which I hope I pronounced this right, which means something like being cozy or being comfortable, like in a state of comfort, something like that. I think the background of that word hygge comes from having long, dark, cold winters, and somehow that became associated with that, and they created cozy homes, or they created, comfort for themselves to kind of, keep the mood going throughout the winter. And that's not just for the Danes, but also for the Norwegians and the Swedes. So that's the first fascinating fact about Sweden. The second one is, I think some of you might know, some not, is that the blue color of the flag is often said to represent the country's natural beauty, including its lakes and forests, while the yellow cross is said to represent the country's long history of Christianity. Well, I think that's a very plausible fact, and I think that's something what a lot of countries tend to do, especially Scandinavian countries, since they all have crosses, but I'm not sure if that applies to every Scandinavian country. As far as I remember, Denmark was the first Scandinavian country to actually adapt Christianity, which was more like in the 9th or 10th century, something like that. And the other Scandinavian countries picked it up later on. And as for any other country, every country has a particular meaning, background behind their flags, behind the creation of their flags. And I find it to be very interesting what every country has, or what those colors mean, or what the symbols of that flag means, and so on and so forth. So I definitely find that to be interesting and very reasonable to have that. The third fascinating fact is actually something similar what Denmark kind of has, and I would like to ask the people of Malmö if that's actually true. The Swedish city of Malmö has a high number of bike lanes, and many residents choose to commute by bicycle instead of driving a car. Well, I think since I've never been to Malmö, I would like to have that kind of confirmation from any of you guys who have been to Malmö or are from Malmö. But I think this is also very true because Malmö is right across the bridge to Copenhagen, and I've been to Copenhagen just recently. And as for many of you who know Denmark or been to Denmark, there are a lot of bikers. I think there are more bicycles bicycles than people for that matter. And the Danes are very big on bicycles, and I could imagine that this kind of maybe influenced Malmö in some way, or maybe the Swedes are also very, fascinated about driving their bikes or riding their bikes every day. Although I've heard less of that, so I can't really say that as a whole country that Swedes are very big on bicycles or riding their bikes every day. But there are a lot of people in Sweden who ride their bikes and are also very fit and healthy and try to, avoid driving their cars or whatever it may be for whatever reason, basically. So that's something that I could imagine for sure, especially if you're right next to Denmark. You might want to ride your bike a little bit more. The fourth fascinating fact about Sweden is actually making light of dark days, so due to lack of sun in winter or autumn times. And basically what that means is that because Sweden and Norway and Denmark, they have very long winter seasons, they don't have that much light. The sun span is maybe, I don't know, depending what time of the winter you are, very short. You're not going to have enough sunlight for the whole day. So what they created is they created those specific lights for people to kind of have this artificial sunlight to basically have. And they would plant those kind of sunlights in buses, bus stops, and even hospitals. They even have, like, as far as I remember, they have certain places or certain pods or certain, like, I guess hospital places where you could come in there and, like, specifically sit in that room and get some light and then go out, something like that. But you can correct me on that as well if I'm wrong. And it's very important actually for the Swedes, because a lot of people in Sweden, they get winter depression, and a lot of people suffer from that. And I could understand why. I mean, if it's dark the whole time, then obviously you're not gonna be of the happiest mood for sure. And I'm pretty sure that other countries like Norway or Denmark, they also have something like that. But it's definitely popular in Sweden, and I've heard of that many times. And it's something to kind of prevent winter depression, so to speak. And the last but not the least fact about Sweden is that Sweden imports waste, and in particular from Norway. So apparently Sweden imports a lot of waste from Norway, and the Swedes are very big on recycling. They love to recycle a lot of things. They like to recycle plastic, they like to recycle paper and all these other materials that are basically recyclable. And they even do that for other countries, and one of them is actually Norway. And that's something I personally didn't know, and I find it to be interesting, and maybe we can pick up some ideas from Sweden, and maybe we can implement those strategies in our countries or in our governments. So yeah, those are some of the unusual facts about Sweden that are not spoken that widely or that often. And if you have any more fascinating, interesting facts about Sweden that not many people know, you can of course let us know, or let me know in the comment section down below. I definitely find it to be interesting, and personally I've been to Sweden only one time, but just very shortly. I didn't get to explore the country enough. I was in Stockholm just one time, but I feel like I need to go back again and kind of spend some more time in Sweden and to kind of explore the place. But honestly, if you want my honest opinion why I haven't been to Sweden recently, is primarily because of safety issues, security issues. From reading the news, reading a bunch of articles about Sweden right now, there has been a lot of terrorist issues, a lot of crimes, a lot of young gang violence issues, and I feel like going to Sweden right now is not exactly the right time. I don't want to put myself in danger, but if you guys live in Sweden, if some of you are in Sweden and you have a little bit more details on that, I would also love to hear some of that. I just personally feel like it's very unfortunate that a country like Sweden has a lot of violence and criminal issues. And I feel like Sweden has to really pick up the steam now and to really address those issues. And it would be very lovely to go to Sweden one day. I really want to see the country, but right now is not the time for me personally, my personal decision. And I'm not saying that Sweden is a complete third world country where you just can't even go there. No, of course you can go to Sweden, you can go to Stockholm, like it's not a problem, but you know, it becomes a little bit of an issue or becomes more of a safety concern. You start to feel a little bit uncomfortable, you know, knowing that there has been a lot of violence there, a lot of young gangs, you know, criminals, a lot of teenagers who are doing all these sorts of crimes and activities. So you just feel a little bit unsafe there. And me personally, that's not for me right now. But either ways, I hope that Sweden improves their safety measures and their overall standards, conditions to ensure the safety of the people. And I hope to come there one day and I can speak more of Sweden as a country and culture and food and all of that. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So I didn't want to end that on a bad note for sure, but it's something I really wanted to say or to let people know. And yeah, I think that's about all the facts I wanted to talk about today. And if you guys have any questions or remarks, as always, I'm open for those funny, interesting, wild comments. So just write them down and I'll see what kind of stuff you guys write there, what kind of interesting stuff you guys have. So on that note, I hope you have a good day today. And as always, I'll see you in the next video or episode. Have a good day.